Princess Lyra sat alone in her golden tower, watching the 3 purple moons rise over the capital city of Andromeda Prime. The view was beautiful, but she felt like a bird trapped in a cage made of precious metals and jewels. Tomorrow, her father would announce her marriage to Prince Corvin of the Nexus Coalition. She had never met this prince, but she knew what he represented. He was her chain, her prison, her end of freedom. The princess had special powers that ran in her royal bloodline. She could speak with her mind to others across great distances. She could feel emotions and thoughts that floated through space, like invisible rivers. Right now, she used these gifts to reach out into the darkness between stars, searching for something real, something honest in a galaxy full of lies and politics. That was when she first heard it. Music. Strange, beautiful music unlike anything. Played in the Empire. The sounds came from a small blue and green world far away, a planet her tutors had mentioned only once. Earth, they called it. A primitive world full of creatures called humans, who had not yet learned to travel between stars. Lyra closed her eyes and let the music flow through her mind. It spoke of love and loss, of hope and dreams, of fighting for what was right even when the odds seemed impossible. The humans who made this music understood pain, but they also understood joy in ways that her own people had forgotten. She began to send her own thoughts toward that distant world, not knowing if anyone would hear her. She sang in her mind about her golden cage, about the marriage she did not want, about the loneliness that filled her days. Night after night, she sent these mental songs into the void, hoping someone, somewhere, might understand. Far across the galaxy, Captain Jake Morrison was having trouble sleeping again. The former Marine turned space explorer sat in the command chair of his ship, the New Horizon, staring at the star charts that filled the main screen. His crew of 12 was asleep, trusting him to keep watch while they traveled between solar. Systems. Jake had joined the Earth Defense Force after his younger brother died in the Mars colony attack 5 years ago. He had fought in 3 different wars before deciding that exploration might be better than endless fighting. Now he spent his time mapping unknown regions of space, looking for new worlds that humans might someday call home. The ship's communication system picked up strange signals sometimes. Most were just natural space noise or automated beacons from long-dead civilizations. But lately, Jake had been hearing something different. Something that sounded almost like a voice, singing sad songs, in a language he did not recognize. Tonight, the voice seemed clearer than ever. Jake put on his headphones and listened carefully. The alien voice was female, young, and filled with a sadness that reminded him of his own feelings after losing his brother. She sang about being trapped, about having no choice in her life, about wanting to be free. Without really thinking about it, Jake began to hum along with her song. He did not know her language, but music was something that all thinking beings seemed to understand. He thought about his own life, his own losses, and somehow those thoughts seemed to travel through space, along with the alien music. The princess stopped singing. Jake held his breath, wondering if he had imagined the whole thing. Then, slowly, carefully, another song began. This one was different. It had hope in it, curiosity, and something else that made Jake's heart beat faster. The alien singer had heard him. Somehow, across thousands of light years, 2 lonely souls had found each other. Jake looked at the communication panel and made a decision that would change everything. He began to send a response, not in words, but in music and emotions. He shared his memories of Earth's blue skies and green forests, of rain falling on quiet lakes, of his brother's laughter before the attack that took his life. Princess Lyra felt the human's thoughts touch her mind, like gentle hands. She saw images of a world she had never visited, felt emotions from a being she had never met. This human understood loss and pain, But he also carried something her people had forgotten. He carried hope. He believed that tomorrow could be better than today, that fighting for freedom was worth any price. From that night forward, Princess Lyra and Captain Jake Morrison shared their thoughts across the empty space between worlds. Neither knew what the future would bring, but both knew that something important had begun. In a galaxy ruled by fear and control, love had found a way to bloom in the darkness between stars. 3 weeks after their first contact, Jake Morrison was leading his ship through an asteroid field near the edge of known space. The New Horizon moved carefully between the floating rocks, scanning for rare metals and ancient artifacts. Jake had been exploring this region because Princess Lyra had shared mental images of strange ruins she remembered from her childhood travels. The ship's sensors suddenly screamed with warning signals. 6 massive warships appeared from behind the largest asteroid, their dark hulls covered with weapons that could destroy Jake's small exploration vessel in seconds. The ships were unlike anything in Earth's databases, with smooth curves and energy fields that made them shimmer like mirages. Jake's communications officer, Ben Clark, turned pale as he read the incoming transmission. "Captain, they're demanding we surrender immediately. They say we're trespassing in Andromedan Empire space." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. Andromedan Empire. That was Princess Lyra's people. He had never expected to encounter them so soon, and certainly not like this. The lead warship was 3 times the size of his vessel, with enough firepower to turn the New Horizon into space dust. On the bridge of the Andromedan flagship, Princess Lyra stood behind her father's military commanders, trying to look calm, while her mind raced with panic. She had sensed Jake's presence the moment his ship appeared on their sensors. The mental connection they shared had grown stronger over the past weeks, and now she could feel his fear and confusion as clearly as her own. Commander Zethus, a cold military officer with silver skin and black eyes, studied the human ship on the main screen. "The vessel appears to be a primitive exploration craft, Your Highness. Shall we destroy it as an example to other potential invaders?" Princess Lyra stepped forward before her father could answer. "Wait, Commander. These beings may have scientific value. Look at their ship design. They have achieved space travel without using our technology or that of any known species. They developed it independently." Emperor Valdris, a tall man with golden skin and eyes that glowed with inner fire, considered his daughter's words. "You suggest we study them rather than eliminate them?" "Yes, father. Think of what we could learn from a species that reached the stars on their own. They might have knowledge we lack, approaches to problems we have never considered." Jake listened to the alien voices speaking in their musical language, unable to understand the words, but feeling Princess Lyra's desperate mental attempts to save his ship. She was there, somewhere on that massive warship, fighting for his life. "Commander." Zethus looked suspicious. "Princess, these creatures could be dangerous. Unknown species often carry diseases or hostile intentions." Lyra kept her voice steady. "Then we study them carefully, under controlled conditions. Commander, bring their ship into our docking bay using the tractor beam. I want to examine these beings personally." Jake felt the New Horizon shake as invisible forces grabbed his ship and pulled it toward the alien vessel. His crew looked to him for orders, but he knew they had no choice. Their weapons were useless against ships this advanced, and running would only delay the inevitable. The human ship was pulled into a vast docking bay filled with smaller craft. Through the viewports, Jake could see alien beings moving around, in environmental suits, preparing to board his vessel. Their movements were graceful and precise, like dancers performing a well-practiced routine. Princess Lyra entered the docking bay wearing a simple white robe, her long silver hair flowing behind her like liquid starlight. She was more beautiful than Jake had imagined from their mental conversations. With pale blue skin and large golden eyes It seemed to hold the wisdom of centuries. When their eyes met across the space between their ships, Jake felt the mental connection strengthen until it was like a bridge made of light linking their minds. He could feel her relief that he was alive, her fear of what might happen next, and underneath it all, a growing emotion that neither of them had expected. Airlock doors opened with a soft hiss, and Princess Lyra walked onto the New Horizons bridge. She looked at Jake with those incredible golden eyes and spoke in perfect English, having learned the language from their mental sharing. "Captain Morrison, I am Princess Lyra of the Andromedan Empire. You and your crew are now under my protection. But you must understand that you have entered a very dangerous situation." Jake stood and gave a small bow, unsure of the proper protocol for meeting alien royalty. "Your Highness, we had no intention of causing trouble. We were simply exploring." "No," she said softly, and Jake realized she had been reading his thoughts and emotions throughout their conversation. "But my people will see your presence here as either a threat or an opportunity. Either way, your lives are now connected to forces much larger than a simple exploration mission." Behind Princess Lyra, Commander Zethus watched the interaction with growing suspicion, unaware that he was witnessing the moment when two hearts across species decided that some connections were worth any risk. Jake Morrison stood in the Earth Defense Command Center, surrounded by the most powerful military leaders on the planet. The room was filled with tension as he finished describing his encounter with the Andromedan Empire. General Patricia Stone, the head of Earth's defense forces, sat at the large metal table with her fingers pressed together, thinking hard about what she had just heard. "So you're telling us that there's a massive galactic empire out there, and they now know we exist," General Stone said slowly. "And our only contact with them is through your mental connection with their princess." Jake nodded. "Princess Lyra managed to get my ship released by convincing her father that humans were worth studying rather than destroying. But she warned me that this was only temporary. The Empire sees us as either a future threat or a resource to be controlled." Colonel Frank Miller, a man with gray hair and worried eyes, leaned forward. "Captain Morrison, how do we know this princess can be trusted? This could all be an elaborate trap." "Because I can feel her thoughts and emotions," Jake replied. "The mental connection we share doesn't allow for lies or deception. She's risking everything to help us." General Stone stood up and walked to the large screen, showing a map of known space. "What exactly did she tell you about this empire?" Jake closed his eyes, remembering Princess Lyra's mental messages over the past few days. "The Andromedan Empire controls most of this galaxy. They've conquered or absorbed hundreds of different species over thousands of years. They maintain control through superior technology and by eliminating any civilization that might challenge them." "And they think we might challenge them?" asked Colonel Miller. "Princess Lyra says her father believes humans are dangerous because we developed space travel independently. Most species in the galaxy were either conquered before they reached the stars or were given technology by the Empire. We're different. We figured it out on our own." General Stone turned back to the group. "What does the princess suggest we do?" Jake felt a wave of sadness flow through his mind. Even now, thousands of light years away, Princess Lyra was sharing her thoughts with him. "She says we have three choices. We can hide and hope they forget about us. We can surrender and accept becoming part of their empire. Or we can prepare to fight for our freedom." "Fight?" Colonel Miller laughed bitterly. "Captain, you described ships that could destroy our entire fleet without breaking a sweat. How exactly would we fight something like that?" Before Jake could answer, he felt Princess Lyra's urgent mental voice in his head. She was sharing new information, images of ancient ruins and forgotten technologies. His eyes widened as he understood what she was showing him. "There might be a way," Jake said slowly. Princess Lyra is telling me about ancient ruins near where we first met. There are weapons there, left by a species that existed before the Empire. Technology that even the Andromedans don't understand. General Stone's eyes sharpened with interest. What kind of weapons? Jake pressed his hand to his forehead as more images flowed from Princess Lyra's mind. She's not sure exactly. The ruins are forbidden to most people in the Empire. But she remembers her grandfather once saying that the ancient race had the power to link minds across entire species, to make many beings think and act as one. That sounds dangerous, Colonel Miller said. What if this technology is too powerful for us to control? What choice do we have? Jake asked. Princess Lyra says her father is already making plans. After her wedding next month, he intends to send a fleet to Earth. We'll be given the same choice he gives all new species. Join the Empire or be destroyed. General Stone was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. Captain Morrison, I'm going to authorize a secret mission. You'll take a small team of volunteers and try to reach these ruins. If this ancient technology can help us defend Earth, we need to find it. What about the princess? Jake asked. She's risking her life to help us. If her father discovers she's been sharing information with humans, he'll probably kill her. That's a risk she's chosen to take, General Stone replied. But Captain, I need you to understand something. This mission isn't just about saving one person, even if she is helping us. This is about the survival of human civilization. Jake nodded, but in his heart, he knew that saving Princess Lyra was just as important as saving Earth. Over the past weeks, their mental connection had deepened into something neither of them had expected. She was no longer just an alien princess, helping humanity. She had become the most important person in his life. That night, Jake sat alone in his quarters, preparing for what might be humanity's most dangerous mission. Through their mental link, he felt Princess Lyra's fear and sadness as her wedding day approached. She was trapped between her duty to her people and her growing feelings for a human she had only met once. I won't let them force you into that. Marriage, Jake whispered into the darkness, knowing she could hear his thoughts across the stars. And I won't let them destroy your people, came her reply, soft and determined. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. Jake Morrison's team moved quietly through the ancient ruins under the light of 2 orange moons. The stone structures were older than human civilization, covered with strange symbols that seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. Sarah Kim, their pilot, kept watch while Ben Clark worked on translating the alien writing. Carlos Rivera, their engineer, studied the unusual energy readings coming from deep within the ruins. Captain, Carlos whispered, pointing his scanner at a massive stone doorway, there's something big down there. The energy signature is unlike anything I've ever seen. Jake felt Princess Lyra's presence in his mind, stronger than ever despite the distance between them. She was guiding him through the maze of corridors, sharing memories of the few times she had visited this place as a child. Her mental voice was filled with urgency and fear. Jake, you must hurry, her thoughts reached him clearly. My father has moved up the wedding ceremony. It's tomorrow night, not next week. Once I'm married to Prince Corvin, the Nexus Coalition will join forces with our empire. Together, they'll have enough power to crush any resistance. The team reached a large underground chamber where ancient machines hummed with power. The walls were covered with murals showing different alien species, all connected by streams of light that flowed between their heads. At the center of the room stood a crystal structure the size of a small building, pulsing with soft blue energy. Ben Clark studied the symbols around the crystal. Captain, I think I understand what this is. These writings talk about something called the Unity Engine. It was designed to link the minds of an entire species during times of great danger. Link minds? Sarah asked nervously. That sounds risky. The ancients used it to defend themselves against some kind of invasion. Ben continued reading. When their minds were connected, they could think and act as one being. Their combined intelligence and coordination made them incredibly powerful. Jake approached the crystal carefully, feeling its energy wash over him like warm sunlight. Through his connection with Princess Lyra, he could sense that she was in terrible danger. Her father had discovered their communication and was questioning her about her loyalty to the Empire. Suddenly, Carlos's scanner began beeping rapidly. "Captain, we have company. 3 Andromedan ships just entered the system. They'll be here in 20 minutes. Jake made a quick decision. "Sarah, get back to our ship and prepare for emergency departure. Ben, Carlos, help me figure out how this machine works. We may need to use it sooner than planned." While his team worked frantically to understand the ancient technology, Jake felt Princess Lyra's mental cry of pain. Through their connection, he saw what was happening to her. Emperor Valdres had confronted her about her contact with the humans, and she was now locked in a prison cell beneath the Imperial Palace. "She's been captured," Jake told his team grimly. "Her father knows about our communication." "Then we need to get out of here now," Sarah's voice crackled through the radio. "Those Andromedan ships are moving fast." But Jake was staring at the Unity engine with new understanding. Princess Lyra's desperate situation had made something clear to him. This wasn't just about finding a weapon to defend Earth. This was about saving everyone who had been crushed under the Empire's rule. Ben Clark looked up from his translation work. "Captain, I've figured out how to activate the machine, but there's a problem. The person who operates it has to stay connected to it. They become the central point for all the linked minds. It's incredibly dangerous." "What kind of dangerous?" Jake asked. "The writings say that the operator's individual consciousness can be lost in the collective. They might never be able to separate their thoughts from everyone else's again." Carlos checked his scanner again. 10 minutes until those ships arrive, Captain. We need to make a choice now." Jake felt Princess Lyra reaching out to him through their mental link. Even trapped in her cell, she was trying to help him understand the ancient technology. Her knowledge of the Empire's history filled his mind with new insights about how the Unity engine worked. "I'm going to activate it," Jake decided. "But not just for our team. Princess Lyra showed me something important. This machine can connect minds across any distance. If I can link with humans throughout the galaxy, we might have a chance to coordinate a real resistance." "Jake, no," Sarah's voice was filled with worry. "We don't know what that thing will do to you." "Princess Lyra is risking everything to help us," Jake replied. "The least I can do is take the same risk for her and for everyone else trapped by the Empire." He placed his hands on the crystal surface and felt the Unity engine respond to his touch. Energy flowed through him like electricity, and suddenly his mind expanded beyond anything he had ever experienced. He could feel the thoughts and emotions of his team members, then other humans scattered across nearby star systems, then people on Earth itself. But Jake also felt something else. The machine was connecting him not just to humans, but to other species throughout the galaxy. Aliens who had been conquered by the Empire, who lived as slaves and dreamed of freedom. For the first time, Jake realized how vast the Empire's cruelty truly was. Through the Unity engine, Jake sent a single message. To every connected mind, we are not alone. The time for freedom has come. The wedding ceremony took place in the grand throne room of the Imperial Palace, with thousands of guests from across the galaxy watching as Princess Lyra walked slowly toward the altar. She wore a beautiful white dress, covered with silver stars, but her golden eyes were filled with sadness and fear. Prince Corvin of the Nexus Coalition waited for her at the altar, a tall alien with dark blue skin and cold silver eyes. Emperor Valdres sat on his golden throne, watching his daughter with satisfaction. Once this marriage was complete, his empire would control half the galaxy. The Nexus Coalition's military strength, combined with his own, would make them unstoppable. No species would ever dare to challenge their rule again. Princess Lyra could feel Jake's presence in her mind, stronger than ever before. Through their connection, she knew he was coming for her, leading a desperate attack against impossible odds. She also felt something new, a strange energy that seemed to link Jake's thoughts with thousands of other minds across the galaxy. The Unity engine was working, but she could sense it was slowly destroying Jake's individual consciousness. High above the planet, Jake's small fleet of human ships approached the Imperial capital. They had gathered every available vessel from Earth's colonies, but it was still a tiny force compared to the massive Andromedan defense fleet. Admiral Lisa Johnson commanded the human ships from the bridge of the newly built cruiser Liberty, while Jake remained connected to the Unity engine aboard his original ship. All ships, this is Admiral Johnson, Lisa spoke into her communications device. Remember, our job is to create confusion and draw attention away from Captain Morrison's rescue team. We're outnumbered 100 to 1, but we have something they don't expect. Through the Unity engine, Jake coordinated the attack with perfect precision. Every human pilot knew exactly where to be and when to be there. Their ships moved like parts of a single organism, dodging enemy fire and striking at weak points in the Andromedan formations. But the real surprise came from within the Empire itself. Across dozens of worlds, enslaved species began to rebel at the same moment. The Zephyrians, who had been forced to mine rare crystals for 3 centuries, destroyed their mining equipment and attacked their guards. The aquatic Kelvins sabotaged the underwater cities they had been forced to build. On 100 different worlds, the oppressed rose up together. Emperor Valdris received reports of the rebellions just as the wedding ceremony was about to begin. His face turned dark with rage as he realized the scope of the coordinated uprising. How is this possible? He demanded of his advisors. These species have never worked together before. Commander Zethus rushed into the throne room with urgent news. Your Majesty, the human fleet has broken through our outer defenses. But that's not the worst part. Every rebel group across the galaxy is fighting with perfect coordination. It's as if they share a single mind. Princess Lyra smiled for the first time in days. Jake had done something incredible. He had united not just humanity, but all the oppressed peoples of the galaxy. Through the Unity engine, he was giving them the power to fight back as one. Father, Princess Lyra said, turning to face Emperor Valdris, you should surrender now. Your empire is falling apart. The Emperor's eyes blazed with fury. You did this. You helped the humans find the ancient weapon. He gestured to his guards. Arrest the princess. She is a traitor to her own people. As the guards moved toward her, Princess Lyra used her telepathic powers to broadcast a message across the entire galaxy. Every person watching the wedding ceremony heard her words in their own minds. My father has ruled through fear and force for too long. Today, we choose freedom over slavery, hope over despair. Today, we choose to be free. The broadcast revealed the truth about the Empire's cruelty to species across the galaxy. Images flowed from Princess Lyra's mind, showing the destroyed worlds, the enslaved peoples, the cultures that had been erased. For the first time, many citizens of the Empire understood what their government had really been doing. Prince Corvin drew his weapon and pointed it at Princess Lyra. Enough of this rebellion. You will marry me and end this chaos, or you will die. At that moment, Jake's rescue team burst through the throne room doors. Jake himself looked different, his eyes glowing with the same energy as the Unity engine. He moved with impossible speed and coordination, as if he could predict every enemy move before it happened. Let her go, Jake said calmly, facing Prince Corvin across the throne room. A primitive human dares to challenge me? Prince Corvin laughed. You cannot even imagine my power. And you cannot imagine mine, Jake replied. Through the Unity engine, he was connected to millions of minds across the galaxy. He was no longer just one man, but the voice and will of everyone who had ever dreamed of freedom. The battle for Princess Lyra's life and the future of the galaxy was about to begin. The throne room erupted into chaos as Jake's rescue team fought against the Imperial Guards. Prince Corvin fired his energy weapon at Jake, but Jake moved with inhuman speed, dodging the deadly beam as if he had known where it would be before. Corvin pulled the trigger. The Unity engine allowed Jake to see through the eyes of his teammates, predicting enemy movements and coordinating their attacks perfectly. Princess Lyra ran toward Jake, but Emperor Valdus stepped in her path. You will not leave this room alive, daughter. Your betrayal ends here. The Emperor drew an ancient ceremonial sword that glowed with dark energy. Jake reached Princess Lyra just as her father's blade came down. He caught the sword with his bare hands, the Unity engine's power flowing through him like liquid fire. For a moment, father and daughter's rescuer stood frozen, their weapons locked together. You cannot win, human, Emperor Valdus snarled. Even if you escape this room, my fleet will destroy your pathetic ships. Jake smiled grimly. Through the Unity engine, he could see the battle raging in space above the planet. The human fleet was badly outnumbered, but they were not fighting alone anymore. Ships from a dozen different species had joined the battle, all coordinated through the ancient weapon's power. Your fleet is already losing, Jake said. Every species you enslaved is now fighting against you. Princess Lyra suddenly gasped in pain and stumbled. Jake caught her, and horror filled his heart as he saw the energy blast wound in her side. Prince Corvin stood behind them, his weapon smoking from the shot he had just fired. If I cannot have her as my bride, then no one can have her at all, Prince Corvin said coldly. Jake felt Princess Lyra's life force fading through their mental connection. The wound was mortal, and there was no medical technology in the throne room that could save her. But as her blood flowed onto the marble floor, Princess Lyra made a desperate choice. She reached out with her telepathic powers and connected her mind fully to the Unity engine through Jake. Her consciousness joined the vast network of linked minds across the galaxy, adding her strength to theirs. But the effort was killing her faster, burning through her remaining life energy like a candle in a hurricane. Jake, she whispered, her golden eyes growing dim, I can anchor your mind to the Unity engine. I can keep you from being lost in the collective consciousness. But it will cost me everything I have left. No, Jake said, holding her close. There has to be another way. There is no other way, Princess Lyra replied softly. The Unity engine is too powerful for one mind to control safely. You need an anchor, someone to keep your individual identity from dissolving into the collective. Let me be that anchor. Through their connection, Jake felt her determination and love. She was willing to sacrifice her life to save not just him, but every enslaved being in the galaxy. Her act of love would give the rebellion the leadership it needed to succeed. Emperor Valdus raised his sword again, intending to finish what Prince Corvin had started. But Jake stood up, Princess Lyra's fading life force flowing into the Unity engine and stabilizing his connection to the vast network of minds. The change in Jake was immediate and terrifying. His eyes blazed with the combined intelligence and determination of millions of beings. When he moved, it was with the coordinated power of every human ship in the fleet above, every rebel fighter across the galaxy. Your empire ends today, Jake said, his voice carrying the weight of countless civilizations that had suffered under Andromedan rule. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Jake fought not as one man, but as the physical representative of every enslaved species that had ever dreamed of freedom. Emperor Valdres and Prince Corvin were skilled warriors, but they could not match the coordinated power of the Unity engine. Above the planet, the space battle turned decisively in favor of the rebels. Andromedan ships began surrendering or fleeing, as their coordinated enemy proved unstoppable. The Empire's iron grip on the galaxy was finally breaking, but Jake barely noticed the victory. He knelt beside Princess Lyra, holding her hand as her life slipped away. Her sacrifice had saved the Unity engine's power from consuming his mind, but the cost was unbearable. "The galaxy will be free," Princess Lyra whispered with her last breath, "and they will remember that love is stronger than any empire." As Princess Lyra died in his arms, Jake felt her consciousness become permanently woven into the Unity engine's network. She would always be there, a part of the system that had liberated the galaxy, her love and sacrifice, guiding the new confederation that would rise from the Empire's ashes. The princess was gone, but her dream of freedom had become reality. Price of that freedom, however, would haunt Jake Morrison for the rest of his life. 10 years had passed since the fall of the Andromedan Empire, and Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Freedom Station, watching ships from 100 different worlds arrive for the annual Liberation Day celebration. The space station orbited the planet where the ancient ruins still stood, now converted into a memorial for Princess Lyra and all those who had died fighting for freedom. Jake was older now, his brown hair touched with gray at the temples. The Unity engine had left permanent changes in him. He could still sense the emotions and thoughts of people around him, though not as strongly as during the war. More importantly, he carried Princess Lyra's presence within his mind always, her love and wisdom guiding him through the difficult years of building a new galactic government. The Galactic Freedom Confederation had replaced the Empire, but it was nothing like the old system of control and fear. Each species governed itself according to its own customs and beliefs. The Confederation existed only to help coordinate trade, settle disputes peacefully, and prevent any one group from conquering others. Admiral Lisa Johnson joined Jake at the observation window. She now served as the Confederation's military coordinator, ensuring that the fleet remained strong enough to protect freedom, but never strong enough to threaten it. "The ceremony is about to begin, Jake," Lisa said gently. "The representatives are waiting for you." Jake nodded and walked with her toward the main assembly hall. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy had gathered to remember the day their chains were broken. There were the blue-skinned aquatic Keldons, the crystal-bodied Zephyrians, the plant-like Verdians, and dozens of other species that had once been slaves of the Empire. As Jake took the podium, he felt Princess Lyra's presence more strongly than usual. Through their eternal connection, he could sense her approval and love for what the galaxy had become. 10 years ago, Jake began, we fought not just for the freedom of humanity, but for the freedom of every thinking being in this galaxy. Won that war, but the real victory has been what we built afterward. The audience listened quietly as Jake continued. Princess Lyra of Andromeda taught us that true strength comes not from controlling others, but from inspiring them to be free. She gave her life to ensure that no empire would ever again crush the dreams of entire civilizations. In the front row, Emperor Valdres sat with his head bowed. The former ruler had spent 5 years in prison for his crimes, then another 5 years working in refugee camps, helping to rebuild the worlds his empire had destroyed. He was an old man now, broken by the loss of his daughter and the weight of his past actions. After the ceremony, Valdres approached Jake privately. "Captain Morrison, I know my words cannot undo the harm I caused, but I want you to know that I am proud of what my daughter accomplished. She was always braver and wiser than her father." Jake looked at the former emperor with eyes that held both forgiveness and sadness. Princess Lyra believed that everyone could change, could choose to do better. Your work with the refugees shows that she was right. Valdris nodded and walked away, carrying the burden of his guilt, but also the hope that his remaining years could help heal some of the damage he had caused. That evening, Jake stood alone in Princess Lyra's memorial chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing the words and images she had shared with the galaxy during her final broadcast. Her message of hope and freedom had inspired the rebellion and continued to guide the Confederation's principles. "I wish you could see what we've built," Jake whispered to her memory. "Children on 100 worlds play freely in parks and schools. Art and music flow between the stars. Different species work together to solve problems instead of fighting wars." Through their eternal connection, Jake felt Princess Lyra's response, warm and loving as always. She was proud of him, proud of humanity, proud of every species that had chosen cooperation over conquest. Jake touched the crystal monument at the center of the chamber, and for a moment he could almost see her standing beside him, her golden eyes shining with joy. "Your love saved us all," he said softly. As Jake left the memorial and returned to his quarters, he carried with him the knowledge that Princess Lyra's sacrifice had created something beautiful and lasting. The galaxy was free, and it would remain free as long as people remembered that love was stronger than any empire, any weapon, any force that tried to crush the spirit of thinking beings. In the morning, Jake would return to his duties as the Confederation's first president, working to ensure that the dream of freedom continued for future generations. And always, in his heart and mind, Princess Lyra would be there to guide him, her love eternal and unbreakable across the stars.